ready for roll call when you are, Kelly.
Okay, Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Binder? Mr. Everly? Dr. Greenlee?
Here.
Mrs. Bryan? Mr. Platt?
Yes.
Mrs. Hammer? Mrs. Bisbee? Yes. Mrs.
Seeing no audience to visitors, we'll get right to online registration.
Okay, so I did an update of where we're at with online registration. Currently, our portal is up and running. We've got the beginning stages of our forms on there. Our secretaries and principals are going through and making sure that everything looks okay. We're projected to be launching it beginning of April, so we're still on timeline for that launch date there.
Still doing pre-kindergarten registration by
Yes.
our old form right now, but we're still moving along with that. So
Yeah, so
that's
kindergarten registration, we're doing the way we've always done, and then hopefully if we keep moving along like we should, beginning of April, we'll launch our online registration. The next slide shows, it's kind of hard to see, but this is what our portal will look like for new parents when they log on to our system. It has kind of like a launch page. The next slide will show you just how people will input information, and that was one of the questions, that what does this look like for parents, and this will be our portal. We're just going through right now and making sure that everything that we want parents to input is there, so that's kind of the process that we're at now. The last one is just the electronic signature that we have to do with that, so we're working with that. The next piece of it is the payment vendor. We talked a lot about the fees online. I think the best choice for us right now is to stick with eFunds. That's who we use for our lunch system. It works, there's not many choices with our lunch system as far as payment vendors. Some of the parents are already used to eFunds, and so I feel like that would be the smoothest transition, just to stick with them as we move into our online registration, just keeping as much as we can the same as possible. There's a couple fee options though when parents pay with credit cards that I kind of need some guidance from committee, whoever, on how we want to handle it. There is a no-cost fee to the district, so the parents would pay the $2.65 plus on every $100. The school would pay nothing. So you can kind of see there's a breakdown here where we share the cost, where the parents have a flat $2.65, and the district picks up 2.2%. There's a school choice where we can set the amount the flat amount that the parent would pay, and then we pick up 2.2%, or the district could carry everything, depending. And this is just for the credit card option. So if a parent pays with cash or check, we could still log it in the system, but we wouldn't be charged the fee. So
Melissa, wait. I'm sorry, while you're on that slide. So do we have to choose something here?
we're going to have to decide what part we want to make parents pay and what part the district wants to pay. So we have to decide what plan it is we want to do.
For the lunch program right now, do the parents pick the cost
Yes,
up?
right now for the lunch program, it's a no cost to the district. So the parents pick up that $2.65 for every $100. When you think about our elementary costs, if it's a $50 registration, the parent, it would be $2.65 for that parent to pay online with the credit card. And so it's just kind of.
When will we need to make that decision?
We do not. I don't know if that's on.
I would think we'd have to have it before we launched online registration, right?
Yeah. So before we actually launch online registration, we'll have to make that decision.
So if you were talking about an April launch, we need to decide at the March meeting.
Yes. So March, I'll bring it to the board with whatever recommendation we have to say what kind of thing. The eFunds can start rolling its process and getting integrated, and then they'll just include this later on. So.
Will you have a recommendation for us?
I would, if the school did the full pay plan and based off of all of the income that we got last year, it's about $5,000-6,000 that the district would cost in fees. So it's not a huge amount. I would like to encourage parents to pay online as much as possible just to collect fees. I would either do this like school choice or the full pay plan. I would like to see the district pick up a little bit just to encourage that payment plan for parents. So.
One of the ideas of even originally going to the credit card was convenience and getting easier payments up front. So,
No, I guess that's kind of what when I said, are you going to have a recommendation for us? I mean, that seems to make sense in my mind, about the best way to get the money flowing into the system is to say, we'll cover some of these costs for you to get this going. We'll have those fees and stuff collected up front and hopefully save that money on the backside. But I guess that's why I asked the question. So you'll have something kind of spelling out what the recommendation is going to be. for
Yeah,
us.
and if the board could get behind it, I would like to see the full pay plan, just because if we send it to collections, it's 35% of that they would take of that fee. So if we can pay, 3.2% upfront and get that money right away, I think that would serve us best in the long run, just to get that money from the consumer more than later. But I can, for March, I'll have that for you guys if you have any questions.
Thank you.
Yep, is there any other questions on online registration, where we're at with that?
On target to be online and up in April, so like where we said we were going to be. We've been aggressive about getting them their stuff and following up on it.
Nice. Well done. Thank you. So payment vendor for the online registration is an agenda item here. Do we need something else from us?
Oh, nope, that was that, I just rolled it into one since it's,
Okay.
okay, so hold on a second.
And we'd stay with e-funds on that, right?
Yep, stay with you on that.
Okay, pre-K update.
All right. So our preschool program, go to the next slide. Currently, we have a blended preschool program for children starting at the age of 3. We're located at Cape Breton Elementary School. The blended program, or it's also called an inclusion model, supports the education of children with disabilities alongside non-disabled peers or their peers with no disabilities. And research has shown positive benefits to all children when they're provided with an inclusive environment. Our blended preschool program will continue to provide children with active learning experiences that promote growth and development that will increase student success. So currently, we have 2 classrooms that each offer a morning and an afternoon session. Currently, there are 15 seats in each of those 4 sessions, so a potential of 60 students attending. 10 of those seats are designated for students who are at risk, formerly the grant program. 5 seats currently are designated for students who have IEPs. We're proposing, starting next year, that we up the number of seats from 15 to 20. So instead of 15 per session, we'd have 20 seats available per session.
Can I interject something here just
Sure.
real quick too? Just to go back and kind of refresh how we got to this point. If you remember, the pre-K grant last year became competitive where they awarded it to just some districts, not the way the state had been awarding it. So as you remember, we didn't get offered the pre-K grant. So right now, the funding is on us. So some of those pre-K restrictions come off. So what we sat down and said was, well, if we're running a pre-K program, what can we do for our district? So that's now is where Allison will walk into. Is there a way we can open seats up? Yeah.
So what we're proposing is we keep with the 10 seats designated for students at risk, going through the same process, and I'll touch on that in a minute. 5 seats designated for students currently with a qualifying IEP. I'll talk about what a qualifying IEP is. And then we would like to add 5 more seats per session for students that would pay tuition. And we would use a lottery system in order to do that. So, any questions so far?
Just an effort to get more kids into the pre-K program.
And most schools have this 3 category type of preschool program. Belvedere has tuition, at risk, and IEP. Prairie Hill, same thing. Most school districts do have a tuition base, a small section of their preschools that are tuition based. So the structure for the preschool, again, tuition, at risk, students with IEPs. Looking at the funding, the difference would be tuition based. They would pay a fee per month of $100, which is considerably lower than some other districts we looked into. They would have to pay a $50 deposit. Again, space is limited, so it's just those 5 seats. No registration fee. They would have to fill out an application and transportation would be provided. We're recommending that transportation be provided regardless of tuition, at-risk, or IEPs. At-risk students and students with IEPs would both pay a district registration fee of $75. The at-risk students would go through and qualify based on our preschool screening process. That would remain the same, and I will talk a little bit about what that looks like. And students with IEPs either are coming in from early intervention from Boone County or based on our evaluation process, they qualify with an IEP. So our tuition based, again, we're recommending 5 seats maximum per session. So this could potentially be 20 students. We are recommending a lottery system used for enrollment. So parents would have to fill out applications by July 1st for the upcoming school year. Students who are identified at risk through the screening process but are waitlisted, they would be eligible for the lottery. If they say, I realize, I qualify this way, but I'm willing to pay the tuition, put my name in, we would allow that. The first lottery would take place July 1st. And for transparency, we could even do it web-based, just in a public setting so that parents would see it's legit. Additional lottery draws could take place monthly as needed. That's if someone in a tuition-based seat left the program for one reason or another, then we would be able to do a lottery in the next month to fill those seats so they could be kept. So we would accept applications year long. And we did put in here, students with 2 consecutive delinquent payments would be dropped from the enrollment. So questions on tuition based? Okay. Our at-risk students, excuse me, 10 seats maximum per session. So a potential of 40 students who are considered at risk, which is the same as what we have now. Students would go through a screening process. We currently do screenings monthly from September through April. Within the screening process, our parents complete a screening questionnaire and complete an interview with a social worker. Students are then assessed for their academic, speech, social emotional, hearing, vision, fine, and gross motor skills. It's called the DIAL. Part of a screening process. It's actually required by the state. We take the information gathered from these assessments and questionnaires, and it's tabulated and students are given a rating. So I do have those documents if you're interested in seeing them. Each answer is worth a certain number of points. And then we rank them based on highest number of points. If we see concerns in a screening that might suggest that further testing is needed, perhaps for an IEP, we would go on for either a play-based assessment or additional special ed testing. Continuing with at-risk, the students rated the highest at risk, so that higher score, will be invited to enroll in the program. All other students will be placed on a wait list according to their rating, so by number. As seats become available, again, we do have students who move or exit the program for a variety of reasons. We would then go from the wait list, the top of the wait list, and invite them to enroll. Starting with the highest rate first. And as I mentioned earlier, students on the wait list can either enter the lottery at any time. And then our IEP students, we would hold 5 seats per session, which is what we are currently doing now, which would open 20 seats total for students with IEPs. Not all IEPs qualify a student for preschool. they have to have 2 areas below average. So that's a combination of academics and speech, or speech and social work, occupational therapy, and physical therapy, with the exception of academic concerns only. So a student could have only academic concerns but not have any speech, social work, OT, or PT concerns. But let's say the student has only speech concerns, they would not qualify for the preschool program. We do have walk-in speech services, but not walk-in OT or PT. Questions about the IEP? Okay. Next, the next proposal we have, so the first is that we open up for tuition. Second is that we adjust the schedule. The current schedule, students are present for 2 hours and 45 minutes. We are proposing 2 hours and 30 minutes. It's only an adjustment of 15 minutes. And how, oops, I should have later. In the impact, so I apologize. So by making this shift, if you could go to the changes in impact slide, I just want to talk about that as long as we have that there. So a couple more. So this changes in impacts. The biggest thing is this 15 minutes does actually opens up common planning time and helps with our transportation. Currently, we have seen several days where transportation, for whatever reason, maybe it's weather, maybe it's bus drivers, shortages there, our buses have gotten there as late as like 8:30 in the morning. When you have a 2 hours and 45 minutes and students are getting there a half an hour late, they've missed a considerable amount of time. So one of the things we're recommending is adjusting this time by 15 minutes. So with that original one, the day would start at 8:30, which is going to free up drivers from transportation so they could do a morning route and then as well do a preschool route with any risk of that overlap or shortage. So the majority of this time, this 15 minutes, we would take from their gross motor play time. Decreasing the time from 30 minutes to 20 minutes. So they have 30 minutes now, and we would take it down to 20 minutes.
30 minutes was what was required by the Preschool for All program,
Yes.
if I'm correct.
That is correct. So they would still have 20 minutes, which is about what our elementary students see as far as outside recess or time, to play on equipment. And in talking with the preschool teachers, they felt that this was adequate amount of time. And maybe something different about preschool than other classes, first grade, second grade, third grade, or high school. Children are up on their feet for most of the day. They spend very little time sitting at a table doing an activity, so it's not as if taking this 10 minutes away from their gross motor play would be a huge impact on how much time they're up and moving around. As I said, the shift in morning start time will provide transportation more flexibility with routes and drivers, eliminating late buses. The shift in the morning start time will also provide team planning time for teachers and paras to discuss students and their needs. Interventions, learn about new devices, and prep materials. When I say learn about new devices, sometimes we get students in that require a device such as a Dynavox, which is, it's like a little tablet. And so the paras and the teachers need to know what on that device needs to be used for those students. So having that amount of time will help them. It also allows them to talk about maybe what happened the day before with their small group, because we have paras running small groups as well as the teacher running small groups. So it's would benefit the team of staff, the staff that are working with our kiddos. And shift of times will have no impact on contractual times. So our paras in the preschool program, they are 8 to 2:15. So the way we work this new schedule, that 8 to 8:30 time they would have with the teachers as a common planning with them. And then they would be there throughout the day and at 2:15, which is when the day ends already. So now I'll go back to preschool transportation. Do you want to talk about preschool transportation?
Sure. So you kind of touched on it a little bit. This is one of those places where we felt like we could open up and have conversations about preschool transportation before. They're typically one of the ones that are late. There's a couple of routes that we can split when we're short on drivers, and unfortunately preschool is one of those. And so to help solve that problem, we thought if we could start preschool a half an hour later, that would give that route would open up for more drivers to take it. Right now we have 11 students that ride that have an IEP that ride for free, and we have about 17 students that have regular transportation. And so at the board meeting tonight, I did put in our transportation fees for approval that we open up preschool transportation for free for all of our preschool students starting next school year. So that is a recommendation for me. I feel like we kind of had a lot of conversation with that and just feels like that's what we're doing right now. As far as enrollment, that was a question that came up, is if we had tuition-based students in our program, how would that affect our state funding of the district? Any preschool student that is not an IEP student does not count in our enrollment numbers. So even our at-risk students, those 10 at-risk students, don't count in our enrollment number for funding. So if we had tuition-based, or that's all local funding, so we're funding that program with our money or with a grant, but it doesn't come from the state. So that's just kind of a heads up for that, so that we could take tuition-based students and not impact our funding.
Why are you guys all looking at me? Joseph, do you have any questions?
No.
Mary?
But
No, all three of my boys went to the pre-K program, and so I'm pretty familiar with it. And as a parent, I appreciated the transportation. They had IEP. Well, the oldest and youngest had IEPs, and I don't know, Ben just fell into there. But yeah, having other small kids at home, not having to drive over to Capron twice a day, every day.
And one of the issues we do see is Capron has a fabulous parking lot. When we have,
It's so easy to get in and out of there.
it's we've improved it this year. I've created a big loop, and so that's
Okay.
improved as far as congestion. But as far as the preschool parents, if they are dropping off, then they have to park, and then they walk their children to the door. And just where the parking is for our parents, to be honest, we've had some near misses because they're walking small children through a parking lot and somebody's backing up and not, paying attention. So every year I try and improve on, how can this work a little bit better? So if we have the children, the majority of the children, preferably all, coming in on a bus, they're dropping off at the bus stop, and the children, are met by the teacher's assistants, and they take them off the bus and they walk them into the school.
Right.
So I'm kind of excited to see, if we have more children riding a bus, then we have less congestion and
You have potentially 20 less cars in the
Sure.
parking lot in the morning.
yes. And also, I didn't put it on here, but you made me think of this. If we shift the start time to 8:30, all my morning traffic of parents dropping off their school-age children, that will be gone, as well as the buses dropping off in the morning. So we only have 3 buses that drop off in the morning, but we have about 30 cars. So that's a lot. Potential needs. So if we increase the number of students in the classrooms, there is a potential need for one additional paraprofessional for the program. This paraprofessional would provide assistance in both classrooms for both the morning and afternoon sessions. I only say one, even though we have 2 separate classrooms, because the way we can schedule them, we can offset when their small groups meet, so that paraprofessional would go in the rooms during that small group time, or during a larger group time, depending on what the service is, if it's music therapy or speech therapy or art therapy of some sort or library, you know, we would really look at the scheduling for the day, and I don't feel we would need an additional per classroom, but just one that we could float between the two. We may need additional furniture, maybe an additional small table and chairs to be added because we're increasing the number of small groups. So instead of 15 students, which would be, you know, 3 or 4 small groups, having a maximum of 20, you're looking at 5, maybe 6 groups of kids. So just looking at that logistic.
Does it add any extra money on bus routes, or is really our bus routes remain similar to what we have, but just frees us up on ability to time and a variety of drivers?
It will depend on how many people take advantage of our transportation. Potentially, depending on where you're pulling kids from, you may have to add another piece of route. Right now, I think we have 2 routes. I have to look. One at Cape, one at Brunswick, one at Brunswick. So we potentially may have to look at that.
Okay.
That would just be dependent on. But then there's bigger buses that are opening up too. So it just really is.
Okay.
So just to be completely transparent, Melissa and I had a really good conversation about all this, and I know that she's brought Mike and Allison on some of the concerns I had, but a new one has come up while we're talking about this, and I guess I'll start there. I have a little experience on the transportation side, and unless the rules have changed, Allison doesn't want buses dropping off kids by her before 7:55, correct?
Actually, we're earlier than that, I think,
Yeah.
right now.
They, I try and get outside at 7:40, just because I have some kids there already. And I have told bus drivers, when you see me come out with the stop sign, which is about 7:42, 43 at the earliest, is when I allow them to let the kids off the buses. Technically, 7:45 is when they are supposed to let them off, but just so that the buses can get around and out before parents are there. That's what we've been doing.
So I just finished going through the stops, 7:55, 7:45. Bus driver gets in there, can unload at 7:45, 10 minutes to get the kids off, probably another couple minutes to get out of the lot. The bus has to get from Capron back to here. That driver has to get out, by law, has to pre-trip another bus, get back in it, go out and make her out, and gonna have kids back to you by 8:30.
That's how our high schools run.
But the high schools routes are picking up all the high school kids on regular routes while they're picking up kindergarten through 8th grade kids. The high school routes that are dedicated to high school routes are coming in here, dumping up in the middle school, going to Candlewick, going through the city of Capron, going to the city of Poplar Grove, picking up multiple kids at one place, and have to be back by 8:30. They don't have to get out of a bus, pre-trip another one, potentially have a mechanical issue that keeps that bus from being ready to go, and have kids back. They don't have to run a route where they have to potentially run around Manchester Township getting kids, because those kids have already been picked up.
That might be something we need to look at, because the piece that
It's
we
a concern.
didn't. No, that's a good catch.
First of all, I love the idea that you guys are thinking outside the box. I'm not shooting the idea down.
No, and
I'm just saying that if that's what you're thinking, that is not going to work.
Yeah, I think what we missed was the pre-trip piece. I think our hope is that there wasn't pre-tripping, because really, by the time they drop off, we've got to do pre-trip. That's going to slow it down. That's 15 minutes right there
That's an absolute
automatically.
violation of the law.
Yeah,
So they have to
exactly, and I don't want
pre-trip
that.
bus. So they have to
It's a good
get out of
catch.
one, get into another one, and even if Scott has it running, that doesn't change anything.
Right.
If Scott's driving it, that's fine. He can pre-trip it, he can run it, but I worry that you're going to try and stack routes on top of each other. This is absolutely probably the routes that are not stackable.
Okay, that's a
That's
good
my
catch.
concern.
No, and I will look at
As we look at the overall proposal. The other things that I guess, to be transparent with Melissa, that I shared was I was uncomfortable with the idea that we would potentially have more than 10 kids that needed the services that we get bumped for tuition kids. And you guys used the examples of Prairie Hill and Belvedere, and you didn't know that I had been in front of a couple of parents who used the Prairie Hill example as why this one shouldn't be modeled after what's going on at Prairie Hill. They've had a number of parent fights there the last couple of weeks over where they are with pre-K. Because they use tuition the same way that you do, teachers and staff's kids, even though they don't live in the district, can take those spots. There's nothing in this proposal, when you talk about tuition, that says these kids have to be our kids. And so at Prairie Hill and at Belvedere, to a certain extent, parents can bring their kids from outside into these tuition programs,
I was unaware
take
of that.
spots from our kids, their own kids,
Right.
and now these other parents are sitting there going, we're paying taxes, these are our programs,
Yeah, no.
these other kids that don't live in our district are in this program.
No,
and it
to be
doesn't
clean
work.
on that, our intention was own kids, so we can clarify that.
yeah.
District kids,
But-
district
But
enrollment.
to take that a step further, the other concern that I had was that potentially we limit the number of kids who really need to be in the program to 10, so that we can hold on to 5 tuition spots. What if we had 15 kids that really needed the services? Why would we need to hold on to 5 tuition kids and put those kids on a waiting list? All the evidence that I've looked at, this was a hot button issue when Mike and I were here about whether we get value out of this. There was a number of times that the board said, show us in grade 4, show us in grade 6 that 3 and 4-year-old interventions work. We know they do now. There's plenty of evidence out there that shows they do. And the truth is that I looked around over the weekend, a lot of school districts around the state are expanding the 3 and 4-year-old programs to include everybody. They want all their kids in school, even though they're abbreviated timeframes. And I challenge Melissa, maybe that's what we ought to be looking at. If you want to talk about making transportation problems go away, have a pre-K program in all 3 schools. They come in on regular transportation, it's done. So, those were the concerns. I'm just being transparent with the rest of the group. I really appreciate the work that was done on this. You guys did a really good job. There's just one hole, and I seen that one because I did that for almost
and I
20 years.
appreciate that, and that we knew it was gonna be a
And I
close.
wanted to make sure that we put that out there.
Kind of what our plan was, that tonight we came up to the board about being able to put this whole fee for transportation. Then we can do some more brainstorming. If we have anything in March, we can bring it back to the board. with some more recommendations. Okay?
Just being transparent with the group about what I saw.
And 2 things, when Melissa brought that back to me, I'm not opposed to growing it. I think it makes sense. I want to make sure that we've got, one, that our needs are, we're going to meet the needs, and I'm not opposed to growing it, because our idea is how do we grow it, but grow it in a contained way yet, so that we, keep it moving the right way, but yet have a good program to it yet too. The other piece of it is that the rumors we're hearing is that the pre-K grant for all is supposed to be reinstated under our new governor. Wait and see if that's what we get, but if that gets reinstated, then we come back to the tighter pre-K guidelines with it too. So we're trying to, if that were to ever shift and we've got some money available there, kind of make sure that if we choose to go that route again, we've got an easy transition there too, so.
And I just raised those concerns, just an issue of transparency.
Oh, they're good.
So people knew the conversation that Melissa and I had already had on it, so.
Especially on the timing details, because right now what we're running into, and I totally empathize with the parents on it, is when we've had to shift because of our driver shortage, the inconvenience. And I'm not looking to do, and then we're paying tuition on the top of it. I hate hitting somebody for tuition and then our service is interrupted or we're a little late. I hate that. So we were trying to do everything we could to get away from that and make sure that there was good, solid consistency there. Pretty good. We do have a board piece on that about transportation fees, about just kind of getting rid of some of those transportation fees. That, Ed, if you'd still like, we could still talk and at least broach that. Because that's been another topic that we've talked about too.
Student fees.
Student fees, okay, so here we are, student fees again. Let's go through just a rundown of where we're at with our outstanding student fees and then recommendations for the next school year. The next slide. So as you can see here, March of 2018, we were at 130,000 outstanding fees. February 2019, just this month, we're at 56,000. So we almost cut that in half of where our student fees are at, like reflected. This is by grade.
Go ahead, I'll make the presentation.
This is by grade. The big chunk there is 9 through 12, which this is not uncommon. You're collecting the fees as they go through school, right? So this is kind of rolling along. Pre-K through 6 is that blue, and then the red part is that 7th, 8th section. The next slide is the outstanding by amount. And what's kind of happened over the last year is that if you shoot down to the last column, the big two tall ones, the blue one was March 2018, and there was 786 people in the district that owed fees to us. February 2019, we had 483. So we considerably dropped the people that have owed fees to the district. And then the other one is like who owes $1 to $49.99. And those numbers are rising up, but our bigger number, like $200 plus, is going down. So we're seeing a nice shift here. And I will say that it was great when we were at registration and people that thought that registration was more, they'd say, I have this much money, apply it to my past fees. And so it was much appreciated when people got that they can start to pay off some of those outstanding fees there. So we've seen.
So do I hear you right? We're starting to see much more manageable fees.
Yeah, so where we're at with our collection update, we're still in the process of sending letters. Our goal was November, December. Because this is our first year that we rolled it out, I've been giving people a little bit more time to interact with this. I did not send out the first letter before Christmas just because it's our first year doing it. I waited until January. So just a heads up to the board that was the choice that I made just because it was the first year. So we sent out the first letter. I got great feedback from people either sending me full checks or reaching out and saying, here's the situation, this is what we can do. So we're still sending invoices. We'll do one more letter and then we'll send anybody that's not active to collections, and then they'll work their magic and make the letters to get back to you. So we're trying to get people to pay fees so we can recommendation for the 1920 fees, 17-18 we actually collected 108,000. This year, 18-19 we collected 58,000. So because those fees dropped, we didn't collect less, but we are getting past. So there's the recommendation that I would be making to the board is to keep our fees the same as they were last year. We saw, very appreciative for all of that. They're lower, as you look at the districts around us, they're comparable or lower than. So, any questions on that?
So do you attribute us getting caught up to the fact that we cut fees to start with?
Yes. Yes. I worked at the fee table. I think that was helpful because I had multiple people come up to me and say, oh, I thought it was going to be 150. We'll just take this other 50 and apply it. So I don't know where I saw that, but we saw people being able to pay a little bit more. So I think that was
Our reaction that we got through registration, even walking up to me to search out and find me to let me know that was very, very positive the whole way through.
See, you get the credit for it all along.
That?
You took the credit.
No, I didn't say that at all. I said, that was our board. No, I didn't do that.
It's nice to hear that we had an impact.
Yeah.
Thank you for all your work on it.
no problem. Thank you guys. I appreciate that. And yeah, they were happy. I think it's a good spot to be at there. The lunch fees, those are also, I don't know if you have a copy there, but they're, the lunch fees, we had a lunch audit. Everything was great. The one thing that they said is that within the next 3 years, we're going to have to raise our lunch fees. So right now they're $2.75. The recommendation is up to $3. So Dr. Green and I talked with Jasper Meister, and we thought that this year we would keep them, for next year we'd keep them flat. The year after that, we would have to raise them up to $3 to meet that state requirement of law. So I just want to give you guys a heads up that that's what I'm going to propose for the board tonight is to come back.
The idea is they are looking for a certain set fee to hit the reimbursable lunch. But at the same point, they don't want it to become a cash cow, so to speak, for the district. So trying to walk that fine line where,
So can we maybe get an update at the next business service meeting about what the take rate is and how close we are to at least being awash in our lunch programs?
I was in a district once where we got an audit. They made us raise the prices of lunches, and then our bottom line got a little higher, and then they were angry about that. And I'm like, I don't want to keep hitting up there.
Didn't we do that 2 years ago?
We did. We moved up a couple years ago to make sure that we met that criteria.
Yeah, I think we had to too.
Melissa and I sat with the guy from ISB about the state, trying to let him know that we were very conscious about not wanting to raise rates. So he was understanding.
And then the last one is the transportation fees, and my recommendation is to keep those the same with the exception of not charging for fees for parents.
How many kids do we have paying for regular transportation? K-8, K-12?
That's a good question. I don't know if I have that information.
That's okay.
I can get it.
Is it a lot?
I think it is considerable. I think we do have hybrid training programs that take advantage of that service, but I don't think it's actually.
So would it make sense to look at that and say, you know, in the light of the problems that we're having with routes, you know, would leaving that off have an impact?
It could, and that's something that I would definitely look at this summer is if we took those away, could we conduct routes? So I think that's an option too.
And not even this summer, this spring yet.
Yeah.
We've already started the conversations about looking at
Have you? I think it's time. Okay.
And then that goes back to, is there a way of stopping congestion and helping some of those issues too, where we've got parking lot issues and safety issues and, you know.
No, the only way you're going to get that one back is to go all the way back to the other extreme.
I understand.
So,
Any questions on these?
Finding the balance where we can make sure we can maintain the service is the piece right now.
insurance committee?
So we met as insurance committee. This was January 22nd. We had to reschedule quite a few times because of the weather. So this is just an overview, and I wanted to give you guys an overview of where we're kind of going. We'll do our renewal in May of the insurance rates. And so Gallagher, they were here. They gave us just an overview of kind of where the district is at. We're kind of trending how we always have with Mercy Health being in network now. Our in network is at 99.4%. So we're just trending as we always have it this way. We talked about the renewal will come in May. So we'll have another insurance committee meeting in May. Our HRA is going pretty well. They reimburse every Friday. It's an easy upload for staff. If we staff have any problems, we've been able to work through that and get that worked out fairly quickly. As of last year, we spent $18,000 in our HRI that we reimbursed back to our staff. So that's about a 4% utilization rate. We may have a little bit more coming, but that's what we've spent with that HRA so far. So, and then we will plan some more training in September for staff on the HRA. And then the diversify is doing our HRA. So that seems to be going well with the staff. Our well-being management program, we've talked about that where we would do it, our insurance can offer a screening for staff that would go, so they could come in, staff could sign up, they could get a blood draw, they would panel back, and that's kind of that well-being. So we're trying to get that preventative for staff so that overall, hopefully down the line, we'll lower some of our insurance. And so the insurance committee seemed on board with that. That seemed like a good plan. So we're kind of getting more information from Gallagher on that. So we'd like to see that coming in the future. We talked about professional development with staff. Kind of feel like you don't know what you need until you already need it, you know, so we're still investigating some ideas for that. So that's kind of on the docket for the future. Definitely new employee stuff will do in the fall. So the other piece of it was the flex spending account update. This is the piece that I have something on the board docket for this. I believe tonight is on there. If not tonight, it is March. But in the future, you're going to see this where our flex spending program, currently we have about 6 staff enrolled in it. There's not many staff that enrolled because they have to pay a monthly fee to use that flex spending service. And what's happening is the district could see potential tax savings when employees participate in the flex spending, but because they have to pay that fee, they're not. And so we're not getting the full tax credit amount that we hoped for in the beginning. And so my recommendation for the board is maybe to take on that $4.50 a month per employee to raise our enrollment, and then we would then see higher tax savings, so we could actually potentially save more than we're spending in those. So that's what the flex spending is. It's $4.50 a month, which is discouraged numbers from joining in there. So my hope is that we could. So last year the district saved about $1,200 in taxes, but with higher enrollment from staff, we can see a little more on that. So that will be coming either tonight or next month.
So for tonight, what we have on the agenda is just informational only, not a voting. So we could bring that back in March.
So that's, unless there's any direction from the business committee, that's going to help us with that.
So did you get feedback that $4.50 a month was something to keep somebody in a program?
Yeah, I've had a couple people, not the whole district, but I've had a couple staff say, is there still a fee? If there is, I don't want to do it. So, and I don't know if anybody else has heard that, but.
Oh, well, what I've heard is, so you pay in every month, but then if you don't use it, you actually lose it. If staff don't want to pay in all this money, they didn't use it, and it doesn't carry over to the next year, so then they're out that money.
Kind
That's a
of just
big
like their
difference.
savings account or their debit, their checking accounts and everything else that gets monthly draws taken out of them, even though they don't use them, right?
Well, it's, what you're saying, like I set aside $1,200 a year for whatever medical expenses, but maybe I only used $100, so I'm out $1,100. So instead of carrying over, and I don't know why they don't carry it over, but
Some of it's, there's so many federal laws that regulate it, and there are some options too, like there's some carry limits too, so.
but that's the big that I've heard is why they don't do it.
A lot of them are afraid if they don't have a current medical condition where they have like monthly fees or monthly prescriptions or something like that, they don't know what's going to incur, so they're afraid to put money out.
I get it. I guess if we go along with the recommendation and we don't get the increase that we thought we were, it was just people making up excuses, right?
And then we can reverse it too. If we find that the district is paying more fees than we are giving in tax, then I can always come back to you guys. That's, you know.
To be on them at that point.
Right. Exactly. That's all I have.
Come on in, you guys, have a seat.
Any questions on any of that? Thank you, guys. Good job.
Yes, thank you.
Very much appreciated. With that, I guess we're adjourned.
You got a few minutes. Thank you, Joe. Joe grabbed us dinner tonight. Carl, come on up.
Ed, when we enroll kids for preschool, my brain's still mushy.